Hello and welcome to Stretford Paddock. My name is Joe, this is Stephen Howson, and we are going to be talking, quite simply, why have Manchester United got better? Now, there's a lot of reasons for this.
Yeah, there's loads of reasons, but we're going to pick one reason, and it's a very, very simple thing, and it's line height.
Interesting. So talk us through, what is a line, what is the height of it, how does it matter to Manchester United?
All right, before we get in that, obviously Eric Ten Hag has come in. I think he's got a lot of the major decisions at the football club correct. And I think one of the things that the team are doing on the pitch is exhibiting a real amount of control. Now, I think one of the reasons for that is Casemiro and Eriksen. I think they're absolutely sensational footballers. They brought maturity, they brought composure, and they brought quality to a midfield that has really lacked it. And I'd say also, Rafael Varane and Martinez have started to create a partnership which is about as good as any partnership in the league. And this is talking from a pure thing that they do on the edge of our box, defending. Like defending, but different. But it's also what they do in possession and how they set us up to defend while they're in possession. And that's what I want to talk to you about, which is the line height.
That's the crucial thing, isn't it? Because it's defending, especially with a modern manager, it's not like you sit on the edge of your box and head the ball out all day. That's not what defending is anymore. It's about covering space, squeezing the opposition, being on the ball, being able to pass, breaking the lines. So what is it that they're doing, you think, that's with this line height that's really sort of changing things for you now?
Well, let's have a quick look at where the line was against Tottenham last week.
Probably the best illustration of United's pressing and systems put together
control,
so far.
If I had to pick a word that described that Tottenham game, it was control.
Yeah.
United didn't look phased at all. I mean, considering the opposition, considering how well they've been played this season, we just put them in a little cookie jar, put the lid on, and went and stuck them on a shelf. They were that much of a threat to us. Now, you can see Rafael Varane. He is right there.
Yeah.
What you can't see is Martinez, but he is literally on the same line as him, just off to his left-hand side over there.
Yeah.
Now, this is 35 yard out from goal, which means they're 15 yard into the opposition half.
Yeah.
This is insane. This is such a high line. Yeah. It's almost kamikaze high line. I couldn't imagine this in the 90s.
No.
Just go stand up there. Am I playing centre mid?
Well, because in the 90s you'd have two strikers stood on the halfway line waiting for the ball over the top. Yeah. But obviously, with the pressure and United controlling the game, they can't do that. I think that's Heung-min Son in the middle there. Obviously, one of their attackers. United have really pressed them up so much that Tottenham have to worry more about defending than attacking.
So one of the things that having a very high line enables you to do, and from a purely in possession point of view, it enables you to make easier passes because you're just closer to where you're trying to be. It enables you to make better decisions because you're closer again to where you need to be. When you lose the ball, it's easier to press from these situations because you're all very compact, you're not strung out. It just enables every single thing that you want to do with the team. It's easier when you've got a high line. The control is there, the press is there. It's easier to score from there because you've got more numbers in the opposition half. Every single thing comes off where your line height is.
It's mad that, isn't it? Because when you're thinking of like how to control a game, you think of passing it, keeping the ball. But like you said, when your defence and strikers are closer together, every pass is easier because it's shorter. Every tackle is easier because you've got less space to close down when the opposition has the ball.
The less risky.
Like less risks. Genuinely, you don't even realise. Like even covering for each other. Even if you're in the next sort of step forward, it's now only 5 yards instead of 12 yards, and you've got less tracking back to do. Like I almost didn't realise quite how big a thing this is, exactly where United's line is.
And we spoke last week about where the fullbacks are, and obviously we can see Luke Shaw's like right there.
Yeah.
So it's a totally different sort of shape that Manchester United are going with. But because of the closeness of all of these passes become a lot easier. The pressing becomes a lot easier. Players don't have to charge around the pitch and get tired. It's saving energy. It means that you know where someone's meant to be, and they've probably got like, we see Anthony sometimes come inside and Delo steps out. They've probably got some sort of rules that someone has to be in each of the channels, and then there's got to be certain players in each depth coming back along the pitch. But it means that people start to know their jobs. They start to know what's expected of them. They start to know when he's in the wrong position, I better go cover for him, rather than just everyone just cutting about the pitch trying to figure it out. So having a high line means that you get to, one, push the opposition back, two, you get to control what goes on with the ball more, and three, when you do lose the ball, which you are inevitably going to do 40, 50 times a game, if not more, you are in a decent position to be able to react and recover. If Varane plays a ball to Luke Shaw here now, and Heung-min Son cuts it out, or I'm not sure who that is, that Bentancur cuts this out, we're in a decent position to counter-press them from there.
Yeah.
And if we're struggling, someone can make a foul and we can just get ourselves back.
Yeah.
But you're in a decent position to stop. But if Bentancur wins the ball somewhere in and around here, someone's going to be on him within half a second, which means that he needs to make a massive decision, he needs to turn around and face his own goal, or he needs to do something where he's not completely in control.
We're making him doing something difficult quickly,
yes.
which is obviously very difficult. Surely then this requires sort of specific personnel that are good at this sort of thing.
Yeah, and I think Rafael Varane's got the physical attributes to be able to play here. He's got the quality to be able to play up here. And as we know, Martinez has got all of those qualities and maybe a little bit more about him as well. Now, the problem is when one of those centre-halves gets injured, it's not quite so good.
Yeah.
So this is against West Ham. Now you go, it's the same stay.
Yeah, see, I mean, maybe you could say Martinez is a yard further back if that line that Varane was on. I mean, that's not too bad, is it, surely?
You're splitting hairs in a big way here. Yeah. Obviously, Luke Shaw's been forced out a little bit wider than he wants. We've got, I think that's Ericsson, over that side, is
next to the ref there.
Slightly in the wrong position. But the problem is here, you actually can't see Harry Maguire, and he isn't.
Oh, so that's not the back line there then?
No.
Where is the back line?
And the back line is inside the centre circle.
Right. That's not so good.
So it's not that far further back, but it's 12, 15 yard.
Yeah.
When we were up here with Varane, now we're a little bit here. Now the distances are a little bit bigger. Now West Ham can push out a little bit more. Now they can start to press us in areas that we don't have the same sort of control. The passes are a little bit harder. If you lose it, they can maybe have a little bit more head of steam because it's harder to press when you spread out across such a big area and you've not squeezed them into a nice, tight, compact area. And one of the attributes that Maguire's got, not the best at scanning, not the best at situational awareness, and his pace means that generally when we do lose the ball in these situations, Maguire is kind of drawn to the ball either to foul them, to try and slow it down, or to try and intercept it.
Because he doesn't trust himself running back towards goal. He thinks, I need to cut this out before they get over my head.
Yeah, and we saw that.
Yeah.
And this is where he's playing it out from. Again, as you can see, he isn't up here.
No.
He's inviting a little bit of pressure. He's held the centre. He probably doesn't even need to be there. But this has pulled Casemiro out when he could have been further up. So there's knock-on effects to all of this. And then if you look at the distance from front to back, it's so much more spread out.
Yeah.
And this is what West Ham want. They want to force us back, which means they can get their line out of the box. If I go back to the one where we had a look at where Spurs were, their back five is inside their box. Yeah. West Ham have come out of their box. Yeah. We're not pinning them back.
Yeah.
And then you have the problem of what happens when they break.
Yeah, because this is the situation. He's basically, I mean, he's a few yards further back than Maguire, but this is basically where he was when we had the ball. Now we don't have it. There's a 15-yard gap here between him and the man, and he's got the second man here. So that means, obviously, because now the gap is bigger, I think that's Bruno there, has got further to track to try and get a tackle on. Now there's bigger gaps between him and his man and the other man. It just stretches everything out, gives West Ham much more time on the counter-attack.
Of course. So Maguire does obviously come and try and close this player down, but as you've mentioned, you've got Ben Rama who's in space here, and any good footballer, especially when they've got this amount of distance, can get their head up, go, guess where this is going. And then you've got Martinez there. Obviously, he's got to get all the way over here to our right-hand side, their left-hand side, to be able to cover when Ben Rama's going to get the ball. It's just not ideal, and it starts to cause us all sorts of problems. And I thought against West Ham, we didn't look as good in possession. We did look a little bit more rattled, and the last 10 minutes, I mean, to give Maguire his credit, I thought he looked great in the last 10 minutes. I thought that suited his game. He's inside the box, he's winning headers, and it was backs to the wall stuff, and he was, individually, he was very good in that circumstance, but I thought in possession, he lacked a little bit, and I thought, certainly in the first half, this was not so much in the second half, in the first half, I thought it was an area for concern for United.
Yeah, I think we've got the next shot as well of how this sort of developed as well, just as a point of danger. So now you've got Maguire there, who's sort of in that no man's land where he's gone short, he's not tracking Ben Rama, but because the gaps are bigger, he can't get to the man before he plays the pass. And then if you see the next one as well.
I'd actually say from here, from this point onwards, one of the fundamental things of defending is +1.
Yeah.
Well, you've got one here, and if Maguire doesn't make that tackle, you've potentially got a 3v1 situation going on. That's not good news.
No, it's not good news at all. So, how do you think this resolves itself then? Because obviously Varane is out until after the World Cup now for United. Maguire probably will be playing these next 3 or 4 games. can Maguire adapt his game to fit this system? Because it's surely if certain other players have changed their system, Shaw and De Gea, surely Maguire can adapt as well. Do you think?
I think he's got to.
Yeah.
I think you're quite correct in I would say Luke Shaw, but also Delot. Where the hell has this performance level been coming from? It's come out of nowhere. But Luke Shaw has changed his role. Luke Shaw used to be a guy that thrived in the final third to that left-hand side of the box, that little space. He doesn't even enter that space anymore now. He's been told to do completely different things, and he's doing them very well to a high degree of quality. David De Gea is leaving his box. Who knew he could do that? Yeah. And he's sweeping up in behind. So we've seen two players make drastic changes to their game that have massively impacted the team in a positive way, arguably free with Delot. The consistency level from Delot, I don't think there's a single United fan out there that would have been like, trust me, watch Delot next year.
He can do that.
Watch what's going to happen.
So do you think he can? Because part of me thinks, obviously it would expose him to this sort of running back towards his own goal occasionally, but part of me thinks if Maguire did sit higher up, he would have to do that less because he could, do a better job of either doing these tactical fouls or just winning the ball back, closing the game down a bit more. Do you think pressing a bit higher, going out of his comfort zone could actually suit him? I
think that's the key. He's got to come out of his comfort zone. He's almost, because he's sort of being left in no man's land. When he tries to sit off a little bit, you're still on the halfway line. Ben Rama is beating you 100 times out of 100 in this situation. So you almost might as well, if you're going to walk on ice, you might as well dance. So you might as well get into the correct position, be as high up the pitch as possible, and actually be a physical, imposing specimen in that area. He does have decent ball playing ability. I think it's a little bit slower and I think that's being shown by having Martinez next to him, whose passing is excellent. But I think if he was higher up, he could adapt his game. I don't think there's drastic changes. Look, he ain't going to be a sprinter. You're not going to change that aspect of him. So you might as well just account for it. Say, all right, just play high up, take the ball, move the ball on. And then if the ball is lost in that area, you're close enough to smash someone in that area, and then we'll figure it out from there. But I think him being caught in the no man's land, it really exposes him. And when you see situations like we just had on the last screen where you end up with a 2v1 situation, this is terrible. This is the worst case scenario for centre halves. So I think he's going to have to adapt, but I don't think it's too drastic an adaptation. So I think it's more drastic what De Gea and Luke Shaw have done than what we're going to be asking him to do. So I think he's potentially going to get the opportunity to see if he can do it.
Great. Thanks very much. Right, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. How big is that line to Manchester United's controlling of games? I didn't quite, obviously you see it happening, you see what's going on, but I didn't quite realise just how important that high line was to the press, to controlling the ball.
It's everything.
There you go. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you, Steve. Hit subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you in a bit.